Welcome to our lecture on use cases. Today, this is the third lecture in the block Developing Information Systems. We will look at ways for capturing user requirements today. In the Agile approach, user requirements are captured as one-sentence description of a work-related task done by a user to achieve some user goals. And so what you see here is an example of such a user story that is captured who the user and what he wants to do and what the benefits are. Those requirements are very important. They are, hold on, let me just check that we have a tone actually, yes. Those requirements are very important considering that the requirements capture the information that will be implemented in the system. So the requirements capturing the features of the system to be. That's why it is very important to get that right. So what you see here is an example of a story card. Those story cards can be either physical index cards that developer and testers share and business analysts develop. And the benefit of those user cards or those story cards are that underneath, at that point in time, already the criteria, the acceptance criteria are loaded. So you have already here acceptance criteria captured, and the tester will use those criteria then to ensure the system is working appropriately. Use cases are now a way to capture user requirements. They are part of, as we will teach it, of the unified modeling language. They were originally created not necessarily linked to the UML, but as a description of a sequence of transactions in a system whose task is to yield a measurable value to an individual actor of the system. It describes what the system does from a user perspective. And it's not inherently object-oriented. So in 1994, there was not much about object orientation at that time. We will look at the event decomposition techniques, how to identify use cases. Important for our exercises later on is that you know use cases are wrote in a form verb-noun. What are the benefits of use cases? So it captures functional requirements from a user's point. It gives a clear and consistent description of the system, what the system should do. It can also be used for estimation. It completely is a communication tool between the developers and the customers to really describe what the system should do. Events are now, so if we are having use cases describing what the system should do, we need to start somewhere when we want to identify what the system should do. And therefore we can use event decomposition techniques. So we identify or we're looking for events, so in the form of triggers that allows us to understand what the system should be doing. And you have different types of events. You have temporal events that relates to, actually I can go to the next slide. You have temporal events that happen considering a certain point in time has been reached. Friday, 3 o'clock, an email is sent out to all staff, reminding them to put until 5 p.m. their timesheets in if they have not done. Or Monday morning, an email is sent out that everybody remembers to finish the books by Friday this week. External events are events that come from the outside, customers call in to update their address, to pay bills. And state events is when a certain condition has been reached. Let's say we are a manufacturing company and producing cakes, bread, and we have to have a certain amount of flour, sugar, yeast, what else? Eggs. I hope there are eggs in it, and not all synthetic done. But so we need to have a certain amount always on stock to ensure production goes always smoothly. And if our storage reaches a value below a certain condition, then an order process gets triggered. So that's a state event. So a certain condition is met. So what you see here is an overview about different events. So you see here, customer pays, ooh, you see, customer pays bills. What kind of event is that? External time to send out monthly statements. Time to send out monthly statements. What type of event is that? Again, different. You have external, temporal, or state. Monthly, temporal. Time to send late notice, so time, temporal events inside the system. And these are external events that happen outside. So here you see illustrated the importance for capturing only system events that are relevant for the system. These are, of course, all the preceding 5 images are all events that take place and events that happen. But none of those events, of those first 5 events, is relevant for system about payments or the procurement system in the company. Because if the customer drives into the mall, is not relevant for Walmart's purchasing system. Customer drives to the mall is not an event that is recorded by the system. But what system would maybe take that as an event? The parking system. So events are, there is not a unique answer to what is an irrelevant event. It depends what system you develop. So in this case, customer buys a t-shirt, the event that directly affects the system. The procurement system, the payment system. But if we're developing a system for Westfield shopping centers about their parking, and you know all those systems now in the big shopping centers where you drive in and you're recording your driver license to ensure that you're not parking there longer than 3 hours, then you need to pay. That would be then an event when you drive in. That's a system use case you would put in place. So that really depends what we're looking for. Use cases. What are use cases? Use cases describe how end users, referred as actors, interact with one or more use cases in a system with boundaries. So what we have here is a symbolic representation of a use case, and I might just go to that slide to show it you in a larger scale. This is an actor. This is the association the actor has with a particular use case. So that the association links the actor to a particular use case. And then you have a system boundary. What the system boundary is, it identifies what is part of the system and what not. And that's what I meant earlier with the car driving into the malls or the shopping centers, they would say here in Australia. It really matters what your system is. So for the procurement system of Walmart, driving into the mall would be an event that's outside, I'm too small. Ha, cool, look. That's every monkey could do this. Parking, driving into parking would be a use case we would not capture because it would be outside the system, a procurement system. But if suddenly the boundary is about the parking system in the shopping center, then the use case would be inside here. So the system boundary, sometimes it's also called automation boundary. This boundary identifies what is relevant and what's not relevant. So in circle, inside, outside. Inside it's relevant. Yes?
So since you were talking about a simple system, what if we're talking about a complex system like an ERP system in a company? So then will we split, like will we make use cases separately or how will we connect? Because there will be multiple cases and multiple...
Yes, so you might have one overarching, you have one, each use case has one boundary. And you might, let's say you have an ERP system, you might have a very abstract high level use case, diagram, which maybe says customer ordering and payment, and nothing else. And then you have a detailed use case. So use case can have multiple sub-use cases, and then you have one use case which only describes the ordering module, and then you'll be more detailed.
So my question is, like, will we define one single system boundary for ERP, or for particular individual system inside ERP will define different boundaries and different use cases?
Yes, but not in one use case. So you have one use case.
So at one particular time we were discussing use case with
always one boundary. So you have always one boundary, and you have to draw one use case where you have very high level use. You draw one boundary, and you have one use case diagram with very high level use case. And then it's like in a book. Then you turn the page, and then you have a next. Yes, and then it's more detailed, and then it's about the ERP, the payment module, and about the supply chain and the online. And then you maybe even do more details on the online module. So you will have only one boundary at one point in time. But you can have more detailed use cases, so each use case has a different boundary. Yes, exactly. So what I would like you to do is, I gave all of you materials here. Please start creating use cases on page 1 with the information given. So you have been given use cases here, and I thank my tutors for coming in and helping. So if you have questions, we will walk around and see where we can help. So start doing these 3 use cases on page number 1. Okay, are you finished with page 1? Page 1, so let's see if that works. That should be the solutions you have. I can make that, I can make that bigger. It's maybe a little bit too much. So student, you have the actor, student, the system boundary, universal enrollment system, enroll in course. Customer, the system boundary, the system, and the use case. Member as the actor, library borrowing system, the system, and the use case borrow book. Please do page 2 now. Please do page 2 now. Why haven't you finished page 1? Look, these are really important 30 minutes now. I really would like you to do the exercises. You can keep chatting afterwards. So I won't keep you here forever, but it is important that you start preparing now for mid-semester exam assignments or whatever, and rather do with us. We have tutors here, me, all helping you to do this right. So I expect you to work with us rather than just playing games or whatever. So I would recommend that you draw the automation boundary as the last thing. Identify who the actor is, what the use case is, then give the system a name, and vary at the very end draw the automation boundary. So what's the solution here? Student, Facebook login system, log into account, clerk, ATM. So should I just please check if you have that. Clerk, ATM system. No, that's the typo here. Should be the shipping system. Oi. Shipping system. And then custom order online ordering system as the last option. Any questions? Did you get it this way? Now please do the more advanced exercise. Again, identify first who's the actor, then what are the events that triggering system interactions and those events represent or will represent your use cases. define who's your actor and how many use cases you have. Our students just about that big, you know, I can guarantee you won't fit all the use cases in. So first, who's the actor? And don't worry about what comes next. We will go to the rest of the slides later. So don't look at it. We are just at the moment when we do the first initial exercises. How many use cases you have in the example on page number 3?
4.
How many use cases you have?
4.
4. How many bubbles you have? How many bubbles?
4.
Circles, ellipses. No, not 7. If you have 4 use cases, you have 4 bubbles. How many actors you have?
1.
Yes. How many boundaries you have?
1.
Good. Now how should your use case look like? Let me show you. That's what I mean with bubbles.
But those use cases are also interconnected, like search catalog and so on.
Treat them at the moment interconnected.
Oh.
So at the moment we have 4 separate use cases and treat them independent. One actor interacts with all 4 use cases. You see, and that's why I said to you, when you had a little box, won't fit all in. And so if you have 4 use cases, you need to be, you can't squeeze them all in one bubble. They have to be 4 separate bubbles. If you're done with it, please go do the exercise on page 4. How many actors you have here? 2. Okay. How many use cases you have?
4.
How many bubbles you have?
4.
Good. leave it now, but you can have actors on both sides. The writing or the naming convention of the use cases is verb noun. So you have return book. Return book. Nothing else. Not book gets returned or something. Return book. Yes. Before we go to the solution to the next exercise, some comments regarding your final exam. I've seen some interesting handwritings walking through the aisles, and as I said to the students in the morning, you might need to consider getting yourself an ink pen. An ink pen, is that what you used in grade 1, 2, grade 3? Some of you have really terrible handwriting, and there are so many marks lost every year in final examinations because we simply cannot read what you write. So I'm walking already now around here and think of, I can't read what this means, I can't read it. And you are not under stress. With an ink pen, and I pulled it up, so this image, I'm not selling them, so hold on. So those pens, so I'm not saying go like this, but you put the, where you really have a feather there and you put an ink patronage in. This costs, well, in Germany it's about 10 euros, 10, 15 euros. I don't know what they charge in Australia and if you can get it in Australia, but I would be very surprised if not. So for those of you who not have a good handwriting, get one of those ink pens, because the reason why you can't read your handwriting is because you write too quickly and it becomes all messy. So with an ink pen, you write slower because the ink can't allow you to go so fast, and then we can actually read what your answer is. So I'm serious, if you not have if you don't have a beautiful handwriting, there's no beautiful handwriting I can see here. So if things are messy and people are challenged reading your handwriting, get an ink pen. Your handwriting will become much better. You have one. Do you have one? Exactly this. This is what I mean. Get one of these. Your handwriting can be read in your final exam, because you don't want to be the student who misses 2 or 3 marks simply because I cannot read what the verb means and then I'm guessing it. And English is not your first language means your grammar might be off as well, and then I can't read half of while with different writing tool, you might have been better off. So yes, exactly, that's what I mean. Your handwriting will just be better. Okay? So just consider it. I can't make you doing it, but I can also encourage you not to lose marks just because I can't read it. And the rule is, if I can't read it, I can't mark it. So what's the solution for the use case on page number 2? 2 actors, 4 use cases, connect, so the whiteboard system, submit assignment, check rates, use cases, the student access, teaching staff is associated with the use cases, mark assignment, make announcements. And again, make sure you go verb, noun in the naming convention. And then and then the next exercise, please, on page 5. Go ahead and do this. And for this use case, really think about, you can put actors on both sides of your automation boundary. And how many use cases you have? How many associations, how many actors? How many associations has each actor?
3 each.
3 each. 6 in total. How does, you have certain use cases are associated to 2. You have the customer and the staff member. And both can search for textbooks. And both can update customer details. You don't have 2 use cases because that might suggest you coding it twice. Don't take me in a picture. I've seen picture horrible on that one picture. And then you have one use case, purchase books, and the other one, add new books that can only be done either by students or staff. Or by customer, not student, customer, because a staff member can also become a customer, but then he or she is a customer. Okay, what's the next one? Okay, let's quickly go back to our slides and look into something that is called more details. Because you have the possibility, as you've seen earlier, to add more details into your use cases. What does it mean? That the use cases can be connected to each other. For example, what was earlier the borrow book and pay late.
Search for book and then borrow book. Search book and borrow book.
Yeah, but the connection was.
Oh, the late. Return and late.
Yes, exactly.
Return book and late fees.
Yes, so late fees for returning a book, that's related. And that information can be captured by using additional content or additional information you put into your use cases. And you have 2 options to do this. You either do this with an include relationship, where you make the association a must relationship, that when one use case happens, another use case gets triggered automatically. What does it mean? How does it look like? A student borrows a book, and then that includes automatically you need to verify if they are a member or not. That's an include relationship. Important here that you have suddenly an error on it. So it's an error, it's directed relationship. You put include here and the line is dotted. So it's not a solid line. Let's do the exercises on page 6 now to the include relationships. And then I go later on show you the exclude relationships. Extend relationships. main use case to the must use case. Write include on here. I see you're all done with that exercise. Let's look at it, what the solution should be. Customer withdraw cash, include enter PIN in the ATM system. Customer check in, make a booking in a flight. So in order to check in, you must have made a booking prior to it. And plagiarism detection system, check similarity. That includes that the document has been uploaded and it's done by a student. So now go on to the exercises on page 7, where you have a textual description for it, and you will are requested to do 3 use cases again. So the first one is the employee submit timesheets, payment system, include completed work. Include completed work. Complete work. Yeah. Complete work. Yeah. Take your point. Online shopping. Find product is part of purchasing your product. If you didn't find the product in the shelf, you can't buy it. And then last but not least, so let's have both here. To submit a statement. Submit that statement to be able to allow to rent a car. Otherwise, yes?
For the first one, complete work is something how they're actually supposed to submit complete work. Because how will the system know?
Okay, and that would save the. Hold on.
Submit because it's written. For work they have submitted. So, like, what is the action? Completed work is.
It's done, some cannot be submitted. Cannot be. Hold on. Yeah, hold on. Yeah. The submit you have on the other side. Oopsie. You have to submit on the other side. Hold on, where did it go? You have to submit. Submit timesheet requires that the work is complete. Finished work. Finished work. So you have completed it. And that fulfills the noun, the verb noun too. And then last one, yeah, you have to be sober to allow to rent a car. Now let's go back to the other case. As I said, there are two ways to add information to a use case. One is the include, one is the extend. And extend in some kind, extend means you are capturing an optional relationship, and the extender extends the function of the base use case if and when certain conditions are met. So if and when certain conditions are met, the other use case gets used. So what does it look like? If and when certain conditions are met, so if you're over the limit, then you get a refusal of your library loan. If you, have more than 20 books at home, you're not getting more books because the limit is 20 books, and that's why. But this gets checked, and only if your condition is met, you get refusal. Otherwise, you are allowed to borrow more books. So one is a must. You must verify the membership in the library, and the other one may apply to this particular user or may not be relevant. So different types of relationships.
So we'll write the condition with the association. Sorry. So we'll write the condition with the association, right?
The decision criteria, yes.
It's not condition like the over limit in this case, so that will write with the association.
Yes, correct. But you don't have to. So because in some stage there is not a clear condition. So you'll see it with the exercises, which are on page 7, please. Page 8. Yes?
If the contact program and everything, so they need to like the overlay maybe low.
Yes, if you have a condition, yeah.
Yeah, if we don't just like this, just.
Then you only write extend. And it's again a dotted line. Don't make it a solid line. It's relevant, but you can divide it. It's like some you fly like a very fast. A to B0. And I didn't purchase a meal because I had some sandwiches with me. So when you book a flight, when I got a little bit of or where you have extra luggage. Have you been close before where you already where your ticket was only hand luggage? Because I don't know, which means that you can buy and pay $50, and then you can also what is it? Check in that's the Bullerhaus, and then check in also a bag. And so that's optional. And so the same with meals. In certain flights, you can fly and you get only drinks. And you're not, but you can write at the booking, pay already more, and say, I get a meal. But it's optional. While a seat would not be optional. That would be, or you need to get a seat, but you may can't book the seat. So the seat will also be optional because
You need to pay extra dollars.
So that was not a good example. And hand luggage. So hand luggage you always allowed. How do the solutions look like? Purchase meal. You don't have to necessarily purchase a meal. You book flights. Is your main use case, system name, and actor. Extend. Use case is optional. View program summary is your main use case, the system name and the actor, so that should not be customer, that should be student. And the, that should be user, yes, that's Maria. And this extends the, when you find a contact, you may send a text or may send an email. Okay, now please go to the next page and do the little exercises there. Okay, how do the solutions look like? Employee pay for groceries and he might get a receipt, or the customer. Is that employee? That should be customer. Pay for groceries and he might or might not get a receipt. Employee sends an email and he may or may not attach a file. And the seller creates an auction and may or may not include buy it now, include a buy it now price. So give that option. And these, you had asked before, these use cases can be combined in way more complex and more combined matter. You see here you have 4 different actors in a use case of a restaurant. This is a little bit different here because it says system boundary and not the name of the system. But that depends on how each software allows you to implement that. See multiple use cases, and you see here order food and then serve food are 2 use cases, and each of them, if you ordered wine, then you get wine, but only, and you have the conditions here, if it was ordered. So you can have use cases without a criteria and then some with criteria, so having a mix would be good. Now there is on your exercise one last exercise, the expert level. I would like you to do this in the last remaining minutes, and then you are an expert in creating use cases. So all do the expert level exercise. you finished? Let's give it 2 more minutes. If I keep the students now, please stop thinking. Shall we have a look? Do you have include and exclude relationships? And include and extend relationships. So what do we have? We have 2 actors. Yes, you can see this. 2 actors. I can do one more maybe. Rental store system, store rental system, customer, staff member. Both are related to return items, and both can search for movies. They register members online and in the store, rent products, and that includes you register. So you check. So that's verifying membership, called differently. It charges a credit card, and that include one includes the pay late fees if you want to pay that with your credit card. You may, when you rent a product, can rent a game console. So you can rent it if you want to. But you don't have to. Or it's optional. Yep. Yes, and for. But the game console is
That's just
return items. Yeah. It's not. Yeah, it's not captured. Yeah. It's not captured. Yeah. Yeah.
is a must. If you want to register the castle, you must register.
You must use your visa. You must check. You must check. The credit card must be charged. Okay.
Yes, I know this. Right now, if you must rent a movie before you can, so that you can rent a day castle. So it's quite weird. On the one hand, it's extended, and on the other hand, it's
The extent is optional that you can see second one, but otherwise, if you cannot rent a game, you are renting a movie.
yeah.
You just put it in a movie without a game. Yes. I just wrote how to often rent games, and then it should be loaded in addition to the video game. With controller, because they don't need it. That's why it's only everybody uses the video rental. Okay, if these are all your questions, I want to conclude. You can ask, no problem. You can also talk more with the tutors or myself. I thank you very much for your attention. This exercise concludes the block on developing information systems. For preparation to your final exam, you are not required to draw use cases, but you may be required to read them so that you know what that image or that picture shows and can explain it what it is. Next week we start with introduction into electronic commerce, so we will be teaching looking into how to trade online, the digital economy, and how people can use social media. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'll see you back in 1 week. Thank you.